All right, folks. Good morning on Sunday. We're back to hopefully paint a little longer than we've been able to the last two sessions. So, get some of this stuff out of the way here. Read that. All right. Off to a later start than normal, but better than no start at all. So, all right, where did we leave this guy off? We're going to do his skirt. Actually, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of this paint that's left on this brush, get it off. I don't know, it seems like that's happening a lot more than before. Maybe I'm just more conscious of it. Like I said, hopefully we'll go a little longer. We've been able to the last two sessions because, well, that was just unfortunate. Well, the first one was I just wasn't feeling well. I wasn't feeling well either one of them, but that's irrelevant. The second one, like yesterday afternoon, I wasn't feeling well. Like I picked the wrong time. Nobody was on, so I'm like, man, I gotta go change positions. So we'll see. And not really feeling bad. More like really uncomfortable is probably the correct way to say it. So, welcome. Good morning. I cannot pronounce your name. Harvey, welcome. Good morning, or happy noon to you. All right. Let's get, what color, we did a yellowish type thing on this last guy. So let's do something that's like an off-white on this one. And let's grab this. Lovely. Let's get this color down here. Pull one thing out and four fall. Love it when that happens. Big fan. Okay. This is silver gray. Well, okay, if you tell me, they'll look about the same. Talked a little bit about that yesterday. The name of a color doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. It used to be more, but now it's like, it's irrelevant. Jules. Tony, I've been putting paint on my early Libyan light chariot and my Welsh fast pike for wall of roses. Awesome. Painting Napoleonic dragoons and listen to you. Awesome. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the ride. I had high hopes for getting a lot of things done yesterday. It just didn't happen. I hadn't counted on being uncomfortable. And I guess it could be worse because it's much better than having a headache, but never had this much stomach acid. So I'm taking a medicine for it. And I think it came about from eating too many oranges, believe it or not. We had someone that gave us a whole bag of oranges that are pre-cut up. They were for like a football players. They said, hey, we just came to from a football game and the players didn't have these oranges. This lady was a friend of my wife's. Said, "Do you want these oranges?" So literally, it was like 40 oranges cut up in quarters, all individually in plastic baggies. So I ate them all in a week, and I guess that's something you're not supposed to do. But it's the only thing I could figure because it's not like I've eaten anything different or And I've got this acid in my stomach build up. I feel it right now, and it won't go away. So, oh well, it's better than a headache, but it doesn't make sleeping comfortable. As I woke up at 3:30 this morning and stayed up for about an hour or so, trying to go back to sleep. And then I woke up a couple hours later and I said, okay, that's enough. That's why we're off to a late start today. But I've been dealing with that for about over a week, since Wednesday before this past one. So I haven't seen a lot of painting. Oh, we'll get better. It'll kill me. One or the other. And if it kills me, the good news is I don't have to go back to work. Got to think of the positive. Yes, I had a good portion of the day yesterday to myself. The girls were busy doing something that I could be tied up for. I'm like, good, I'll get a lot of painting done. Well, that didn't happen. So we'll see how long we can go before they need my attention. But this is, once we get this guy done, there's 5 more guys to go on the hordes. So I really would like these done as soon as possible, so we could move on to something different. If you guys are tired of seeing Amorite hordes, imagine how I feel. But not painting them isn't going to get them done. Kevin, welcome. There isn't enough colors on the sheet yet. Nope. Nah, we're painting drabby guys. Boring loincloth wearing dudes. Really boring. Man, it seems like ever since when I took this army out to play, I've been progressing backwards, because all I was going to do was just do the general and then move on. And since then, I'm like, well, since I didn't get the general done in time, and I had to replace it with another unit, I ended up using a Chinese chariot to play this army. Then I'm like, well, I gotta paint the chariot before I move on. It'll end up being like my Russians. I played a game with them and then never finished the knights for 2 years later. So I'm like, nah, I want to get these guys done. So I'm like, well, if I got to paint the general, I might as well paint the two solid hordes as well. So I went from, if I get the general done by the show, I can go ahead and start the new army, to having even more tasks to do on this new army before I move on. So it seems like I've gone backwards, but I know a lot of you do a fair amount of solitary gaming. I can't do it at all. I don't. I mean, I guess I could do it if I filmed it, because then it'd be like, talking to myself. It'd be like a big monologue, but all right, we got the whites alive. Yeah, a tiny little bit. Put in a few select places. And this guy's, oh, he's got some kind of a stick. That's what I've kind of determined, that it's a stick that he has in his other hand. I honestly don't know what the hell it is. Had a guy on the DBA Facebook page that said was painting Vikings, and he put a picture of his Viking guy that he'd painted, that was holding up a banner, and he realized after he'd painted it that his shirt was actually not a shirt, it was just bare chested. And he made some kind of a comment like he misunderstood the shirt or something. I forget exactly the terminology that he uses, but it's the thing that you commonly have to do, is you have to figure out what exactly it is that they're casting there. And sometimes you look at the casting like, okay, does the shirt end here? Is he not wearing one? What kind of sometimes you got to figure out what the casting is trying to represent. So yeah, I've done stuff like that before, and I forget exactly what terminology he used, but yeah, I've had to do that before myself. You have to figure out like where something ends and where it begins. It's more obvious on some figures, less obvious on others. But the easy thing is, if you realize it's the wrong thing, you just could repaint it if you choose to. It's rare that you can't get to something you already painted to fix it if you choose to. I know some people, when they paint inside out, so they paint the things towards the inside and paint outwards. I don't put any thought into it. I kind of paint what the biggest color is. So generally, if I have something that's, the figure is mostly this one thing, that's what I try to paint first, to try to eliminate options for how the direction of the figure is going to go into. So I mean, he's mostly flesh, so just go ahead and get that over with. That'll help you decide, maybe what color you're going to paint some of these minor things. And speaking of mostly flesh, we're going to brighten this guy up a little bit, because he's looking a little too, it's not necessarily the skin tone I have a problem with, he just needs a little bit more highlights. So let's get in there and do some of that. We'll mix like that. Right. I'm going to need to mix this. There we go. You let these colors sit overnight, and the water in them pops up. It comes up. And that was way too much of that flesh. That was an accident that I had yesterday. Mistake. Squeeze, nothing comes out. Squeeze a little more. Boosh. Yeah, it happens to all of us. Doesn't happen that often, but there we go. Let's brighten this guy up. The guy we were calling the other the Butcher of Babylon. This guy will be the Butcher of Basra. I don't know if Basra was around back then. Probably not. I know it wasn't. That's what he looked like. All right, this guy's done. 5 left. All right, let's paint these 2 guys that are the same. These are the same as my fast auxilia figures. At least you've been able to catch me live. It's a miracle. It's been difficult the last 2 days. Just read a battle report on Krugmar. Made me think about a Welsh army. Yeah. Am I feeling better now? Stable. Sounds like grim determination. Amorites not being the most glitzy of armies. Yeah, I got to get them done. How many figures have you completed? Well, I've got, of the 14, I've got 5 left to go. So that's 9. So let's knock both of these guys out. Yeah, the thing is I wasn't painting, and so when I wasn't painting, I was doing something a little bit less uncomfortable, but I was still uncomfortable all day yesterday, for a whole week actually, over a week. It was so bad I had to go see the doctor. Not used to your body not healing yourself on its own, so. All right. All right. Let's mix some of this core color in. I need to make a bigger mix than normal because it seems like I'm really not adding a whole lot of paint. Like the physical paint. Yeah, you know I'm tired of dealing with something when I go see the doctor about it. It's a pain in, I don't dislike going to the doctor. It's just a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass going to the doctor if you have a job, you know. I'll have an appointment for 2. That's not going to work. It's in the middle of my day. I can't go see the doctor after I've been at work half of a day. I'm going to smell like a freaking cattle. It's got to be first thing in the morning. Well, now they have a thing where you can do a virtual meeting, which is really a racket, you know, where they charge you just as much. I mean, it's not a big charge, but whether they see you over a phone thing, well, that's all it is you need to talk to them so they can write you a prescription. So, yeah, I did that. I did that at my lunchtime. And general practitioners are always on off time. So, you know, you'll have an appointment at 11 o'clock and they'll be like an hour late. Same thing happened on the phone thing. But got that over with so they can give me some prescriptions for really strong, like anti-acid stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I start taking this and feel better. Well, you know, there's like 50 pills in there and you're supposed to take 2 a day. So that doesn't bode well. I'm going to feel like this for a month. Oh, well. It's not a headache, so. Yeah, I don't like going to the doctor. I guess there's somebody must like going to the doctor. I don't like going to the doctor. I like going to the dentist. Never had a bad dentist experience. Well, I've had one, but it wasn't because of pain. But I don't dislike going to the dentist. They're always on time. Dermatologist is always on time. Dentist is always on time. General practitioner always freaking late. Always. And sometimes, like, I went one time to, it was, well, we used to go to, now retired. They were like 2.5, 3 hours late one time. I'm like, come on, I don't have time for this. I gotta be other places. Finally finished the last 4 light chariots, ancient British today. I thought you were done with that army. There he is, Victor. Welcome. Go ride your bike. One of my favorite armies, Greg. That's actually my first. Yeah. Ancient British are really popular. I don't know why. I don't know why. I would never build them because everybody I know has them. And I'm not ancient British myself. So, maybe if I was, but. Well, I don't have ancient Spanish, but. Seems like the paint is clumping up on the brush a lot more than it used to. Strange. Very strange. But by the same token, the tip of the brush isn't doing a 90-degree turn as much as it used to. I'll take this over the 90-degree brush ends. That's a pain. Now, a normal person would go ahead and paint the flesh on both of these guys at once, but, I'm not a normal person. I prove that all the time. So once we're done with these 2 guys, we got 3 guys to go when they're done. So if I feel okay, I should be able to get them done this morning. Hopefully. I'm tired of looking at these little bastards. A finish for Watling Street scenario. Not fast forward, man. So I need to do like chariot. Give some options. Watling Street. Did you have a special Boudica figure for that army, Greg? Who's the other well-known? I don't know if he's well-known, but the other known ancient British general is like some guy named like Caractacus or something like that, right? I've never seen anybody build a Caledonian army. And they're similar, except they got even less light chariots. Never seen anybody do Caledonians. It'd be like freaking the same. You just, oh, these are now Caledonians. I wouldn't want to do them just because I'd end up struggling with how I was going to handle the tattoo thing. You know, like how to paint them. Do I paint them or do I use a pen to put them on there? What designs do I do? That would just be a struggle. And people were like, "Oh, how are you going to paint? How are you going to paint tartan or tartan type things?" That's a piece of cake. Painting tattoos, man, that's gonna be a problem. Because not only do you do them, but you know you got your flesh all shaded correctly, right? Then you got to put a tattoo on it. Do you shade the tattoo as well? I mean, it's like you just got to jump in and paint your way out. You know, I'm sure I'd be able to figure it out, but that's the hang up I could see on that. Those ancient peoples really didn't think about other people that may be building figures of them in the future and realize, you know, if we put all these tattoos all over our body, it's going to be really difficult for people, you know, 2,000 years from now to try to represent us accurately. You know, just thought of themselves. They didn't put all that thought into it. That's got to be the hardest painting of anything. You know, people complain about heraldry and stuff like that. Man, all the ink would be a problem. Mark did a conversion for me. Smaller shields too. Caractacus. Yeah, that guy. I used a pen for tattoos and did a lot of swirls. Okay. Just like a Sharpie. And then you probably have to be careful what you seal it with, because if you use something alcohol based, it'll wipe the Sharpie off. So yeah, I guess after you do a couple, you can figure out how to do it. I'd be worried about. That's what I'd be worried about doing. So armies that have tattoos would be ancient British, right? Do the Gauls have them? I don't think a whole lot. Galatians might. Caledonians, Picts. Of course, the Picts. That's where it comes from. Picts. And I would imagine the Maori would have them as well, but it's pretty easy to avoid that army considering I think there's only one manufacturer that makes figures for them. And they're like all blade anyway, so I'm like, you know, that doesn't seem too exciting. I forget who is it that makes it. Is it MY Miniatures that makes Maori? That's it. You avoid those armies. You don't have to paint tattoos on your figures. Micro pen and then spray varnish after 24 hours. Okay. So one of these. Micro perm. How small does this get? Yeah, it would work. And you just have to assume, well, they're not going to be blue. They're going to be red. They're going to be black. I guess they probably do make it in blue as well. I don't know. They really weren't thinking of how they were going to be represented 2,000 years from now. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's lighten this up a little bit. Yeah, for some reason, this time Sunday, there's a lot more you guys on than this time Saturday. I guess maybe you're working on your honeydew lists on yesterday. I don't like Sundays. It's a little too depressing. Like, you're wondering, did I spend my last few hours of freedom? Did I spend them correctly? This is your last chance to do things before the craziness of the week happens. Yeah, like yesterday, I probably would have gone over to who's and played yesterday. If he had a normal work schedule and didn't work on Saturdays and Sundays, it's probably what I'd do. Probably what I would have done. I don't know if we need to do any more than that. It's probably good enough. I think if anything, these guys are going to be darker skinned than most of the army because they're just going to be like, oh, keep those guys out in the field, and you're just going to bake. They're going to turn into like, the skin's going to be like the leather of a saddle. Sunday night here in Australia, 10:50 p.m. Oh, that's depressing, but you don't have to go to work, so. Sunday afternoon described by Douglas Abrams as a long, dark tea time of the soul. Well, for this last week, I've switched to tea. I haven't had any coffee in over a week, and I don't really miss it. I was getting tired of the taste of it anyways. And it's really acidic, so I definitely didn't need to have it, so I've switched to tea, although I don't like anything hot, so it doesn't have to be sweet. It just can't be, can I get away with doing this? There's water in here, right? It's clean. This needs to be wet. Let's get crazy so I don't have to leave. This should work. Can't do this with coffee. Shouldn't do this with coffee. This is just water. Yeah, so I haven't had coffee in about over a week. I haven't had headaches. I didn't get off of it really immediately. So I think when I first started feeling like this, I was having little sips of it and got off of it over a course of like 3 days. So now I don't really want to get back on it. Like I said, I don't like the taste of it. I was just drinking coffee for, get her done purposes. All right. Good. Now we don't have to go run off and, oh, now we got to dribble here. No big deal. Yeah, that's how much paint was dropped there. All right. Iced tea, exactly. Exactly. All right. So this guy's flesh is done. Let's go ahead and paint the other guy's flesh. Let's just go ahead and just bite the bullet and do that. I actually went to a store yesterday. There's a gaming store here in town that moved to another location. A store that's actually been around all the time. I actually have comics too. Like, who cares? But I don't. So I went there yesterday and to see what they had. And they actually were stocked up on Games Workshop stuff pretty well. But it's a pain in the ass. They all have it behind a counter. So, but I picked up some stuff there. But I walked through the whole store and they don't have anything historical. And I don't mean, I knew they weren't going to have any historical miniatures, but they don't have historical games. They don't have anything. It's all like fantasy and sci-fi stuff. And I'm like, man, if I was a kid and I would have walked into that, it just doesn't interest me. I would have never gotten into gaming if all there was science fiction and fantasy. I just wouldn't have. It just doesn't appeal to me. That doesn't mean I won't play one now, but it's not captivating. I know lots of people play fantasy and science fiction. That's fine, but it just seems like you're almost like you're learning nonsense to me. I mean, if that's all there is, it's okay, to break into something else, but man, I want to learn about shit. This guy has a problem, and it's around his legs. There we go. Like a piece of flash there. Looked like he had some kind of elephant man thing going on. All right. Yeah, they had a lot of retail space in that store, and they just had nothing. When you go in the store, it's like, certainly I can find something I'm interested in here. Nope. No, not for me. I actually don't mind painting all the flesh. You kind of put your own little spin on it, but this clothing it's bland, is a little old. No headgear. A lot of the same. A lot of the same stuff. If I really want to do science fiction stuff, I could just fire up the old computer and play that BattleTech game. It's honestly pretty freaking good. No historical board games, correct. No historical board games, Kevin. Not one. Or, I mean, there may have been something historically themed, but it would have been like, trading shit, Sorry, I'm a pacifist every day. I want to play games that are violent. Got to sign off now. Hope you catch another session. Okay. Good night, Greg. Enjoy tomorrow. Where it's going to be tomorrow there very soon. Okay, we might lighten this guy up at a certain point, but we got these guys close to where we need to have them. All right, let's do the javelin things on both of them. Let's get old buff out, or dark sand. Means black is the darkener for that. One of the things I find the most annoying is painting multiple figures, is putting the figure down and picking it up. Because what happens is, when you start changing your grip, you can scuff the paint you have like on the toes and stuff like that. And I don't want to go back and repaint things. So I generally like to paint one figure before I move on to something else. I don't have to repaint any toes. It's generally the feet it happens with. Of course, these little tips we're going to use there, our little Bronze Age blend, as I like to call it. Anyone use the Welsh Army for Dark in the Skies? No, none of us have one. I have on. They're on my to build. They're on my to build list. Especially with those new figures by Forged in Battle. I'd use a mixture of different things, but they're on my to-do list. Yeah, none of us have none of us have Welsh of that period. Mitch has a Welsh Army, but that's the book 3. Is it a really low book 3 or really high book 2? I don't know. So it just has warband. It's the one that's all the way to 900 AD. Something like that. They don't have any bow. So nobody has the Welsh Army. But no, there would be totally a viable candidate. I picked up a lot of Welsh figures from over the years from museum, and they're just one pose for the bowman, but I'd mix them in with other guys. You know, boy, you get done painting that army, you'd never want to paint another mustache. Like everybody has a mustache in that army. You know, most of the people that I game with only have armies because somebody was selling them. Joe's the exception, but generally everybody that is in our group only has armies if somebody's selling them. So if nobody's ever selling a Welsh army, then they won't have it, you know, because they don't paint. So, okay, 319A, yep. Yeah, that's the one they have. Yep, somebody was selling that army, so he got it. Actually, I think that's an army that somebody threw in as a freebie because nobody would buy it, so he threw in that army. We used them a few times. They were right against the right enemy. So one they can have a fast blade general, a bunch of fast warband, and like a skirmisher or two. You need to get in the habit of not calling them Saloy anymore. Getting kind of tired of that. It's okay if you're playing Greek armies, but you know. Chinese Saloy is a little stupid. A little bit of white to lighten this up. come back and do the spear on the other guy. Let's go ahead and get this guy's battle sarong done. We're going to do a yellowish one because I know that none of my guys in my auxilia have a yellowish one. 19B has longbows and 19C has pikes. Okay, I didn't realize they're all three the same one. Okay. Yeah, if I was going to build them, I'd do B and C. Yeah, I've got a ton of those fast pikes, and I got a ton of those longbowmen. I'm not sure how I got all of them. Probably from, hey, I don't want these figures. You want them? Sure. You want them? Sure. You want them? Yeah. You want them? Yeah. Never know where you're going to, oh, it's the color's right there. No, that's a different one. It's similar, but. Ah, yes, this is the famous color called Kanaki Gray. Must be a Games Workshop color. Some planet where the Kanaki live. That's the color that they are. Let's push this through so we don't hurt our fingertip. Come on, you can do it. Boy, you can tell I haven't messed with this color in a long time. All right, now we'll try it. There we go. Kanaki Gray. Skirmishers, light infantry. Abandoned the term Saloy long ago. Yeah, I would use skirmishers for Saloy. I'd use light infantry for auxilia. No. I've never even heard of Saloy until I started playing DBA. Never even heard of it. This is very strange to use very army-specific terms like Saloy and auxilia. And then when you talk about heavy infantry, calling them blades, it's like, why didn't you call them legionnaires? You know? I don't know. Mysteries of the Book of Barker. You thought Greek called them peltast. I thought the peltasts were like heavier than Saloy. I don't know. Greek call a lot of their troops peltasts from their. They called peltasts because of their shields. They called hoplites because of their shields as well. So. Maybe some peltasts can be medium infantry. Some of them can be really light infantry. I'm sorry. What I meant to say, I call auxilia light infantry. I meant to say medium infantry. Mine bad. Okay. I like this color. So even though I use this as a core, I'm not gonna add any more of the core color. I'm just gonna lighten up with white at this point. Let's grab a little bit more, lighten up even more. Yep, medium infantry. Aren't peltasts generally described as auxiliary and armulus? I think so. Yeah. Well, the pelt is a decent sized shield. I don't think it's like a. I don't think it's like a little buckler. So, why would a skirmisher have a decent sized shield? Well, I mean, I guess there's probably you could probably find examples where they did, but the armies that have the armies in the book that have a lot of peltasts or like post Alexander time period Greek states. So like the Achaeans and that kind of stuff. Like after Alexander died, and he'd conquered all that and Hellenized. Well, of course it's all Hellenized. They're all still Greeks, but when you have that influence where you have pikemen and stuff doing most of the fighting instead of hoplites, a lot of the other infantry tends to be peltasts. So Phil probably used those specific terms because his very first draft rules was an exercise in compactness, not meant to be more than 2 pages of closed type. Yeah. Oh well. Maybe a little bit more. How long have I been on? I'm going to say like 40 minutes. No, a little bit more than that. Phil Barker probably want to get away from WRG style heavy, medium, or light medium definitions. Finds the functions of equipment. Light medium is originally a term for frontage. I don't know. But Phil Barker wrote WRG, so he wants to get away from his own terminology. I don't know. I never played WRG. Did WRG have perfect alignment? So in other words, where you had to fight, you couldn't fight like this. Did WRG have that? Or is that something where people encountered a bunch of problems and they just wanted to do the alignment bit? That's one of the things I have. That's one of the things I have the most problem with the rules. You spend too much time trying to play this geometry game of I should be able to move into contact, but I can't move into contact like that. You spend a lot of things that ancient commanders wouldn't have worried about. Well, make sure when you go in and encounter them, you hit them in 90 degrees, but you got to hit them exactly this at 90 degrees, not another way. It just starts feeling like a geometry game. Like I said, DBA is a fine game. A game. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like I'm moving real ancient stuff around. I don't know that any game really does, but I mean, other games can deal with this type of combat. I don't know why Phil Barker's so opposed to it. Armati has it. We played some Maurice the other day. Maurice has it. It's not freaking that difficult. Just I'm never going to play another game that doesn't have that. That you have to do perfect alignment. It's just dumb. I've just kind of accepted it because I was a noob and didn't know any better. But I'm not playing another set of rules like that. That's just strange. You spend too much time worrying about that stuff. I need to take this stuff off. We got too much goop on here. So let's grab another piece because we're not going to want to do anything with this when we're done. We need to use the whole thing. It's probably plenty. I don't want to play another set of rules where if I have to teach people how to play the game, I have to use the excuse. Well, I know it doesn't make any sense to me either, but that's how the rules are written. That's the wrong attitude. That's like something needs to be, they should have play tested your rules better. All right, let's put more black here where the black goes. All right, what do we got left? We got to do his spear points. Oh, let's do the spear points. Those are fun. We still have enough bronze there. We need to go ahead and get our metal color. No. I don't know what the no is. No! I don't recall that. If units weren't perfectly aligned, you would only count the figures in contact. Yeah, what's the problem with that? It's a lot easier to explain to new people. Yeah, that's important for those of us that are in the front lines trying to teach new people how to play. You know, we didn't sign up to be tortured. Okay. Yeah, I never played any of that stuff. I never played a single Ancients or Medieval game until I played DBA. Never. Nobody around me did. I'd never played something so abstract and what do you think it represents kind of stuff, instead of specifically knowing where every shell landed kind of thing. Yeah, I don't like these paint pot covers. I don't have time right now to spend to clean the whole damn thing up. Let's put enough here that if we need to put the next guy over, we still have enough of that made up. All right, let's go ahead and get our mix here. Uh-oh, John Peters here, and he retracted his message. WRG used the number of figures in contact with the enemy to determine the size of the melee. Units can be from 5 to 50, so it became very messy. One thing that we really liked, we played a game of Maurice the other day. Mitch and Joel are a big fan of that game, and we're trying to get me to play it for a long time. I'm not a fan of the period that it covers, but that's okay. But one of the things that it does is you figure out, and it actually encourages the use of dice to figure out what your number is that you have to add an opposing roll to. And I like that because it provides a lot of clarity and it avoids mistakes. So before you go into the battle, of the melee phase, I don't know if this is in the rules, but this is how we played it. So if you're familiar with that set of rules and that's not supposed to be done, well, that's what they told me how it was. So there's my cop out, but I liked it. But you go through all the melees and say, okay, this guy's a 5, but he's overlapped by one guy, so he's a 4, and he has the support of this one. So you put a little die next to the unit that he's going to be a 5, and you do that with the opposing guys. And then when you roll a die, you put that next to the other one, and you compare the numbers. And I think that provides a lot of clarity. That's well done, in my opinion. So there's no confusion and so forth. But I like that. There's actually a lot of things about that game that I like. It's a bit generic in some ways, but then, the armies of that period were kind of a bit generic as well, in other words, especially like their dress and stuff, like, oh, well, they wore different uniforms. Oh, they might have been in different colors, but unless you're doing something like Turks versus Swedes, you're going to have very similar tricorn type armies looking. So I think part of the WRG being very messy is there's just too many damn units. Some of these games just have way too many units on a side. That's the thing I like the most about DBA. There's only 12. You're not going to have 37. You don't have to paint 37 freaking units. I don't mind painting 37 units. I just want them to be on different armies. And can you imagine building an even bigger army of these nomadic guys with no clothes? I mean, it's freaking boring. So I'd rather use my efforts towards, another army. Not just more of the same. I've already exhausted the number of poses, so what, I'm going to paint even a bigger army with more figures in the same poses? That's not for me. That's not for me. I actually took a look at basic impetus that I have this set of rules. I bought them and several years ago, never even cracked them open. I took a look at them the other day, and there's only 3 movement rates. Like, okay, I'm out. That's definitely a bad thing of that. Why only 3 movement rates? That's the one thing I like the most about 2.2 is the movement rate difference. There was definitely some movement rate. Well, you either move 2, 3, 4, or 5. That has a nice variety. Now I don't like that, all auxiliary are the same, but I do like that there's at least 5 movement rates. Gosh, I can't imagine going back to a game where you can like advance out of combat. And you could do that in the other game, right? You were locked in something you don't want. You could pull your units out of combat. I mean, I guess it's all right, but man, it just seems very alien now. Boom, this guy's done. Just like that. 4 to go. That's why I have 4 early Imperial Romans. Wow. And that's the traditional Romans that everybody thinks of as Imperial Romans, but I don't know that they fight anybody that I would consider interesting. Oh, there we go. Who'd I just offend? It's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Lots of people don't like medieval stuff. Yeah. Who do the early Imperial Romans fight that are interesting, or as interesting as the Romans? Another high level civilization. I mean the Parthians, but the Parthians are really only 2 troop types. That's not very exciting. WRG 7, you only had to paint 2 killer armies, late Romans or Burmese. Yeah, that's not good when you can say things like that, because it means that the game's just not for me. When you're like, I don't know that there's any killer armies in DBA 3.0. There's some that don't have as many struggles, but you can't just bring some army and it just walks over everybody. Burmese, huh? It probably has something to do with some troop types are a better value than others, so you buy more of them and you just overwhelm the guys with them. I don't know. I don't really like to buy troops for a certain number of price thing, because I don't care how good you are. The point value is somehow going to get messed up. Some guys are just going to end up being a better value. Or I would never buy those guys. I'd always buy these other ones, and I'd rather be like, you're stuck with this. This is what you're stuck with. This is what proportion a historical army really consists of. But then I'm not really a tournament player. Says the person that only plays tournaments now. No, I mean, I'm not a tournament player mentality, I like to not have a perfect setup. All right, let me get some more water, and I'll be right back. killer army. That's just weird. Why'd they fall then? That's not real Romans. They're all freaking barbarian mercenaries. What have the Romans ever done for us? I know, that's from some skit or movie I've never seen. Yeah. I don't know that one. I've heard of it. I just don't know it. I haven't seen it firsthand. Hey, watching TV means I'm not painting, so not a whole lot of value in that. All right. Let's get his buddy over here painted. What color battle sarong are we going to do? Well, I already got this color here, so let's do that. Okay. That was difficult to decide. That's it, and it was a big problem. The Burmese were rootin' shooting platoons of archers armed with AK-47s on elephants. Yeah. I'd just show up with a bunch of artillery and knock those guys down to size. Yeah, it's a problem when everybody shows up with the same army. I don't care what the army is. I don't care what system. It's just dumb. You got 500 armies to choose from. Why is anybody playing the same one in a tournament? It doesn't happen that often, but when we do, we make sure that they don't play each other right off the bat. So there's a chance that they won't encounter, because there's nothing more boring than damn Civil War. Both people showing up with the same army. It's just dumb. We used to have a bit of a problem in the back. Everybody would show up with like Hannibal. Which, it's a popular army because, everybody knows who he is. But you don't need to have multiple Hannibals. Multiple later Carthaginian armies fighting each other. That's kind of stupid. It doesn't really bug me to have like Romans fighting medieval knights and stuff like that. I don't know, but I wouldn't be able to play Flames of War and have like, British fighting Americans or something like that. That would just be stupid. I can't do it. I'm a World War II fan. So maybe if you're an Ancients fan, you probably can't handle, these mismatched type things. I've just kind of accepted that, it could happen, but. The rootin' tootin' Burmese. There was a bit of that problem in the in DBA 2.2, an army that was really popular, DBA 2.2. And I don't mind I don't really mind an army that's popular as long as you know about them. But it's like people that'll build an army. It's like, well, I built these guys. Well, do you know who they are? No, but I like their troop composition and they kick ass. Well, that's a little lame. I mean, like Tamil. Tamil was always a really popular army in 2.2 because they had like blades and elephants, and it's okay to build an army, but just not use it every day on the tournament is. I'll be honest with you, they're on my to-do list. The Tamil are on my to-do list, but I've looked into the Chola Empire, and that's why I want to do them. And they technically are the Tamil list, but I just have a ton of elephants, and I think it'd be kind of a cool thing. But once I play them in a tournament, I don't really want to play them again. Once I've won a game with a tournament, I'm like, I don't want to play the army again. I'll use them in other stuff, other theme things, but like opens and stuff like that. I grew up with too many people always showing up with the same damn army every time. It's like, dude, man, live a little. It's your excuse for building another army, so you don't have to use the same damn one. But I picked up a ton of elephants, and they're kind of on my to-do list. Will I get to them one day? I don't know, maybe. But that was a really popular army in DBA 2.2 because it perceived had no weaknesses. So, it's okay if if you're from there, if you're from that part of the world, or if you looked into them a little bit, but just randomly picking things, I don't know. It's okay. I guess it's okay if you do it, but it just seems a little fakeish to me. But I don't know if I'll ever get around to doing them. I like elephants. They're cute, but man, I don't really like them in combat. The WRG 5th and 6th did encourage super troops like triple-armed later Romans. Earlier editions like 4th were pike-based. Phalanx was pretty invincible. Blaze. But everybody has problems with spell check. I disable mine. I disable my spell check. I did a long time ago. I don't have any. I type a lot of things in other languages sometimes, so it'd be really annoying to have every other word you say, be stopped. You sure you want to say this word? Yes, I do, damn it. Pike-based. All right. And we'll do these javelin things next. Yeah, these little guys, same thing happened with my other auxilia and stuff. I painted them, I wasn't too impressed with them until I finally I spray paint them and then put them on the stands, and then I'm real happy with how they turn out. Somebody told me that it was going to be like in the 50s at night. The last couple nights. That was bullshit. That didn't happen. I can't wait. Can't wait for some relief. These hot nights suck. I could handle it being hot in the daytime, but hot at night? No, thank you. So after we're done with these two horde stands, we got a light chariot general to do, which a fair amount of it's already painted. I'd say maybe half of it's painted. And then 3 camels that are going to be the camp / baggage element. So we're going to use the same thing for what do you call that? Collision course. What's this? A notification for somebody else. Well, I can't watch your video right now. I'm making my own. I'm busy, damn it. Yeah, that's what I used to do. I used to watch other people's videos while I used to paint. It's a lot better than anything else. It's better than watching programming. There's probably not a lot to distract you. You have to look up and look at all the time. Never got into podcast much. There's some great content out there, but you constantly have to be looking up. Like if you're looking at a map or something, or like I love those Baz battles and the Kings and Generals channel. I love that stuff, but you can't just listen to it. You're constantly looking up at it. Actually, I love both of those two history programs because they're heavy on the maps and moving things around on the maps. And I think that way. That works really well for me. I'm a very geographically oriented person, so I like that content a lot. But I can't watch it while I'm painting. I wouldn't get any painting done. All my paint would get stuck on my brush. It would dry on there. I'm not really compatible. I love watching the die-cast racing guy. I gotta see what happens there. I can't just listen to that. Now you gotta find a balance between something that's interesting, you don't know what to expect, but yet you don't have to look up all the time. And it's okay to look up from time to time, but like I could paint and listen to somebody's channel. I could just have my phone in the same place, right? Just listen to it through my phone. Which, by the way, how are we doing on the charge? Oh, we're good. Okay, so I could do that, but I'm gonna be looking at it. I'm gonna stop, look at it from time to time, and like maybe a minute will go by, and I'm like, shit, I gotta get back to this, and my paint's gonna dry, and not really conducive to that. Doesn't mean their content's not any good. Actually, quite the opposite. Those people enjoy editing videos a hell of a lot more than I do. Actually, I don't not enjoy editing videos. It just takes way too freaking long. It takes way too long. That's time I'm not painting. It's starting to get a little bit of a bend on this brush. That's how it happens. Okay, let's do his hair. Let's use this as a lightener, not white. a little bit more in a few select places. Well, we'll call this guy done too. 3 left. An hour and a half. Okay. Not too bad. Let's see if we can assembly line these guys. So these guys are all, of course, wearing no clothes, and they got some kind of battle sarong and some kind of a stick. Okay. There we go. To get some more of that red leather out here. Well, I went through and I found all my Matchbox / Hot Wheels cars that I had. Yeah, I got a bunch. I also didn't pay a lot of them for them. I think I picked up a whole bunch of them at like 50 cents a piece, or buy one, get one free, or something like that. So I have a whole bunch. I'm really looking forward to doing that. But talking about gaming alone, one thing I haven't had the motivation to do is to sit there and like open the book and figure out how I need to build all the stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is, and if you guys don't remember this conversation, we played Gaslands probably 2 years ago now. We played it 6 or 7 times and it was fun. But the problem is everybody had their cars and nobody would build them ahead of time. So I think that the way forward, and nobody would paint them. So I think the way forward on that front is going to be to paint them make like a starter set for people, and we'll randomly pull what car you can play. So not everybody's building the same type of vehicle, and sometimes you won't have an optimum vehicle, and you just have to deal with it. You know, the game's fun regardless. So as I do like to name the vehicles more than anything else, probably actually come up with a name. So we got this guy's kind of waiting in the wings to be done here. And we did some modification on here with adding some plates and stuff on it. But we need to oh, I got some dust that's in here. So what I envision is I have a lot of vehicles that are either 25 points, 25 points or 50. And that way you either play 2 25s or a 50. And you just randomly pull to see what it is you have and randomly see what vehicle you get to play. So, and I'd like to build them as what you see is what you get. You don't have to play the game that way, but I think it makes more sense to have, this particular vehicle has a turreted weapon up here, end of story, so, anyhow, we'll see how that works out, but that's something I definitely want to do in the short term. It's one of my 2022 goals. So, okay, Harvey, bye for now. You got it. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Let's see if we can paint. I'm really uncomfortable, so I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do this. But let's at least knock out some of this stuff out. See if we can at least get the flesh on these guys. this guy has kind of a face of a satyr, a bit billy goat looking. Let's just do the same thing with the other two guys. There's one color you want good coverage on. It's the base color. Everything works off of that. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. I need to take a rest here, or at least get in a different position for the next. How long have we been on here? Now we're 45 minutes. Yeah, this is the longest one I've been able to do. So lately. So until next time, thanks for stopping by here, and hopefully you got some good stuff done. And we'll catch you guys next time. See you, folks.